We are thrilled to announce our very first resident speaker here on Swell, Susan McPherson. She'll be a resident speaker for the next 2 months, hanging out on the Society and Culture Station. The resident speakership is a new program on Swell. We'll be inviting distinguished voices to come and join our community in thoughtful conversations. Each residency will be for 1 to 3 months, and during this time, we'll have the privilege of engaging with the resident speaker over multiple conversations. And we encourage our users who are on Swell to take advantage of Susan's availability and invite her to interesting conversations, especially on the Society and Culture Station, and things related to purpose, social impact, and sustainability. By way of introduction, I have been following Susan's work for over a decade. I think that she is truly the definition of thought leader when it comes to the power of corporate responsibility and connecting to people around issues that really bond us together and help us, with combined energy, make changes in the world. She has been celebrated rightfully by so many outlets talking about her work, interviewing her, including NPR, CNN, The New Yorker, New York Magazine, the LA Times. She was recently named Forbes 50 over 50 Impact. And when we look at someone like Susan, you have to realize that she is a trailblazer, and she really started conversations when they weren't happening around corporate responsibility and around being advocates inside the organizations we work for to change things sustainably and systemically. I'm really thrilled that Susan's going to be here speaking with us as a community to really enlighten us, invigorate us, and get us psyched about what we can do, how we can make an impact. Susan, welcome to Swell. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to do this first Swell with you by way of introduction so that you can say hi and let us know what's going on for you right now. What are the things you're focusing in on? You can bring up a particular project or just things that you lay down at night thinking about, and bring us into that space so that we understand how you're doing and how the world feels to you right now. And then we look forward to you posting once a week and giving us real insight into topics that you want us to talk about. So thanks for being here. Just say hi and let us know how you're doing. So looking forward to you being here.
What an absolutely beautiful introduction, Deborah. I am beyond touched and filled with gratitude for you and for this community, period. What an amazing platform Swell is, and I'm excited to be here over the next couple of months and hope to engage with many of your listeners and your community. What am I excited about these days? Well, we are living in turbulent times, as you so well know. But my little firm is actively doing what it can to make a difference. And 2 projects that I'm extremely passionate about. Of course, I'm passionate about all of our clients. But one would be the Don't Ban Equality Coalition, which was founded back in 2019, which was formed through a partnership between Planned Parenthood, NARAL, the Center for Reproductive Rights, and the ACLU, all with the goal to help companies step up to protect access to abortion and reproductive rights. Well, as we know, following the Dobbs decision last summer, that access to abortion in this country is becoming harder and harder, and certainly much more futile for people of color, for marginalized communities, etc. We also know, however, that Gen Z and millennial populations want to work for companies that step up and stand for what they believe in. And we also know that more than 70% of the population wants abortion to be legal. So the coalition is working to help companies step up now and protect their workers and find ways to protect the individuals in their communities. And my firm does all the communications for that coalition. So check it out. Another one would be the Leadership Now Project, which is a membership organization of business leaders who are using their power, their acumen, their connections, their brilliance to help protect our fledgling democracy. And we're not the only country in the world that is dealing with a backslide in our democracy. Just look at what's happening in Israel this week. So those are just two of the many projects that I have the privilege to be able to work on and touch every day. When I am not working, I love to do all the things so many of us like to do. Lots of good food. I live in New York City. Long walks, and spring is here now, although I must admit we did not have a winter here. There was not an ounce of snow falling from the sky in winter of 2022-23. But more to come, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Susan, it's so great to hear your voice, even when you're talking about something as serious as the two projects you're working on. I feel the smile in your voice because I think that you love what you do, and that's so infectious, and we're so lucky to have someone like you working with these two very important causes. You know, I was sort of drawing a Venn diagram in my head when you were talking, the issues of, saving our democracy and working for the right to have an abortion. Right in the middle is that female figure, that woman. Women are no stranger to fighting for democracy, and they're getting their vote, nor are they no strangers to making sure they have safe access to health care. It's the very end of Women's History Month, so I thought in the last day here I would ask you about being a strong female in the business of social impact. And your sense of your own trajectory, and the fortune we have to be in a country where generally women do have a voice now, but it's not always something that feels equitable. And there are times when we're in the room, but we're not in the room. And I'd love for you to speak to how your unique journey as a woman, as a leader in a space that requires you to find your balance, find your voice, understand the shoulders on which you stand. As a leader, as a woman, can you speak to some women who are looking to become more active in these areas, but in general find their voice more? And is there a time in your life that you could share where you really knew you had to step up because you were a woman in the room, and what that might have felt like for you, and how that's affected your confidence and your resolve for an equitable world, an inclusive world? Because even the strongest among us have stories that show that there's a crack, and that there's times when we're feeling profoundly challenged and uncomfortable, and those stories really help people understand that they're not alone. So it's kind of a free form for you to respond any way you want, but I wanted to tie all those things together for the end of Women's History Month. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, that's about 1,000 questions, so I'll do my best to answer at least a few of them. And yes, at 58 years old and 35 years of toiling in the trenches in social impact, in corporate responsibility, in community development, in building partnerships and coalitions, I've learned a lot. I also know, as a white woman, I carry enormous privilege, and I realize that only a very few among us have access to the pinnacle of power. So I have to say that one of the most important things I do every single day is bring other people into the mix. None of us are infallible. I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, so I always need to make sure that there are so many others joining me at that proverbial table. But also, as a tiny woman, as a woman who only marginally hits 5 feet when she puts on high heels. I also know that when I walk in a room, oftentimes I am not seen. And I think over the last 40 plus years of my adult life, I have had to really stretch, and I mean stretch from the standpoint of my height, but also stretch in terms of my abilities and my voice to make sure people hear me, recognize me, and see me. But I digress. One of the questions you asked, Deborah, is, if I recall in the question, is, what cataclysmic event or what kind of propelled me into a life of service and impact. And I have to say that it stems back to a very dark day back in the New Year's Day of 1987, when I learned my mother was killed in a hotel fire. And my mom had been a career woman, which was very odd and unusual in the 1970s. She actually went back to work when her third child, me, hit first grade, and rose the ranks at public television. And I was very resentful for many of my formative years because she wasn't there when I got home from school. She wasn't at my gymnastic meets. But she was an incredible role model. And when I would ask her why she chose to work for public television versus the 3 other paid commercial broadcast networks, where I would say, Mom, you'd make so much more money if indeed you worked for one of those entities. And she would say, because the content is so much far superior on public television, and it is in the public's best interest. And that, especially after she was killed, dug a very deep impression in my psyche and led me to forever and ever want to work for causes, for ways I could be in my little world making a difference. So I know we are past Women's History Month because it's April 2nd, but I'm a firm believer that every month is Women's History Month and every day is International Day of the Woman, because we know, and to quote the famous book, Half the Sky, women hold up more than half the sky. So thanks for listening, and to be continued.
Hi, Susan. I quickly wanted to hop on here and welcome you to Swell. Thank you for being our first resident speaker. We are all looking forward to many interesting conversations with you and learning a lot more about social impact and all these amazing initiatives that you have been part of. Your story is very inspirational, so I'm looking forward to learning more, hearing more from you, and inviting you to some interesting conversations. Thank you.
Susan, I also wanted to just thank you again for this first introductory Swell and that origin story of your mom passing in such a violent way. It could bury people down in a life of just victimization and depression. And it's so telling how you were able to have a resilience to use that horrible experience to sort of formulate and fortify your raison d'etre, your reason for being, your direction as a woman, as a leader, sensitive to all that kind of is can be oppressive and limiting, and bust through those and have a heart of such compassion and such empathy, and to want to make change in the world, even though there were some things that were out of your control that impacted you, that you couldn't change. You've sort of transmuted that into something that is possible and something that brings life from something that's so full of sadness. It just really struck me. Thank you so much. I'm really happy you're here, and thank you again for being such a voice of clarity and purpose and possibility. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. And I look forward to engaging with you and learning more about you as well. Deborah, there is something so very soothing about your voice. I do think I could listen to it all day long. Thank you for your very kind words. And I am somehow relieved all these years later that I was clearly able to take something, probably the most horrible thing that could ever happen in one's life, and turn it into a positive. But I can guarantee you, and I can certainly share with all the listeners, that it wasn't an easy task. And it's an ongoing struggle. But I have to only look forward and look up. So, wishing everyone a restful and relaxing weekend ahead.